Hi, and welcome to this quick enablement video of the NetApp AltaVault Cloud Integrated Storage Appliance, the market-leading solution for protecting data to public and private cloud storage. In this video, we'll discuss how to further improve AltaVault's highly secure architecture by configuring and enabling single sign-on. To begin, let's do a quick review of AltaVault. AltaVault is a simple, easy-to-use cloud-integrated storage appliance which provides access to backup and archive applications via NAS protocols including SMB, NFS, Veritas Open Storage, and SnapMirror. Backups and archives are written to the appliance by any of the leading backup application providers. The data is then optimized by applying a variable length inline deduplication, compression, and AES 256-bit encryption before it is saved to the local AltaVault cache for quick restore and replicated to the cloud using your internet link for long-term data protection and disaster recovery. Ensuring that data is secured, especially to public cloud storage, is very important. AltaVault security protection is important also not for just the data, but also appliance access. A properly configured AltaVault should provide access only to qualified administrators in the business. But what if an organization is using single sign-on capabilities to authenticate users to systems across the organization and doesn't want to use local authentication on AltaVault? Single sign-on, or SSO, is now possible with AltaVault starting at version 4.4. Simply put, SSO allows management login requests that AltaVault receives to be redirected through a corporation's central identity provider, such as Windows Active Directory Federation Services, or ADFS. Using industry standard protocol, Security Assertion Markup Language, or SAML version 2, users now authenticate using their corporate credentials and no longer need to log in locally to the AltaVault system. SSO benefits both users and organizations by reducing the complexity of managing services and permissions. The steps of a SSO transaction are as follows. As a prerequisite, both AltaVault and the identity provider must be in a trust relationship. With the trust established, AltaVault can receive sign-on requests from users and reroute them to the identity provider. AltaVault will act as a service provider in this relationship with the identity provider. The identity provider receiving this request will require additional credentials from the user, such as their corporate login and password. After the user provides the requested credentials, the IDP may request for further authentication, commonly referred to as multi-factor authentication, or MFA. MFA can take on a variety of forms, such as an RSA token or a PIN. The provided MFA credentials are passed back to the identity provider for verification, and once authentication is validated, the user is then allowed to connect to AltaVault. Remember that in SSO, AltaVault user accounts are mapped to the user account from the identity provider. Now that we understand how SSO works conceptually, let's take a look at how to set this up in practice. To start off, we'll need to create a trust between the AltaVault and the IDP, since each system is not securely known to each other. ADFS will serve as our IDP in this example. ADFS is going to share its IDP metadata to AltaVault and vice versa. As you can see here, ADFS stores its metadata in the file federationmetadata.xml. Let's point AltaVault to this metadata, then disable the certificate check because we're using self-signed certificates in this demo, and then click Apply. Now that AltaVault has information about the IDP, let's do the same for ADFS. To accomplish this for ADFS, we'll need to first generate the SP metadata file in AltaVault. In the AltaVault GUI, click on the Reset SP Entity ID button, then click on the Download SP Metadata button. The SP metadata for the AltaVault is downloaded, and we'll import that file into ADFS using the Add Relying Party Trust wizard. When asked to import data for the relying party from a file, specify the SP metadata file we downloaded previously. Continue through the wizard until you get to the final step. At the end of this wizard, we'll want to edit the claim rules for the SP we just created. We will establish the username mapping between AltaVault and the Windows 80 user accounts by identifying the attribute that maps between them. By looking at ADFS, we can use the common name attribute from ADFS, which we will align with role-based accounts on AltaVault later on. Select sam-account-name as the LDAP attribute, and the common name as the outgoing claim type. Give the rule a name, and identify the Active Directory as the attribute store. Click Finish and Apply to complete the IDP configuration. On the AltaVault SSO page, we'll update the attribute name field and attribute name format to point to the common name attribute and SAML type as shown here. Refer to your identity provider's documentation for attribute name and format requirements. With the trust established and the username mapping configured, the last step will be to create role-based user accounts on AltaVault that correspond to their equivalent user accounts in Windows Active Directory. Without corresponding users on AltaVault that align with accounts that are expected from the identity provider, you cannot successfully log into AltaVault. Since we have an existing local account test_user on AltaVault that aligns with the account test_user in the Windows domain, let's modify this account and give it full role-based control for AltaVault. Note that at least one AltaVault role-based account must have admin role permissions in order to switch to SSO-based authentication. After adding role-based user accounts, enabling the SSO service will begin the process of AltaVault using the IDP to authenticate the user. Login attempts are redirected to ADFS to complete the single sign-on. After signing on with the Active Directory account credentials, access to AltaVault is granted with the role-based permissions assigned to that user. With that, this concludes this quick demo on securing AltaVault with single sign-on capability. This provides organizations additional security to ensure that only privileged users access systems, and that those authentication credentials are accepted at a global rather than local resource level. For more information about AltaVault, visit our page at www.netapp.com/AltaVault.